Everyone. I woke up this morning and I saw that Steam had some amazing news for me. News being that one of my childhood favorite games of all time, Warlords Battlecry, is on Steam as a mod. The mod is called Warlords Battlecry Protectors of Etheria. Now, I think this mod's been available for free download and play for at least more than a decade. I think it was introduced by independent developers in 2011 or something. I might be completely wrong, I'm not sure. Obviously it's gone through like a lot of patches, but every time I brought this game up, with the few people who've played this game or the genre RTS mixed RPG and stuff, like as kids, they just have very fond memories of it. I and my brother played the first game, Warlords Battlecry 1, as kids, and we had a blast. And I think that game was more of like a campaign. I think the first game had the most epic campaign, hands down. You could only play as humans, but goddamn, that campaign was sick. The second game was, I think, the most fleshed out and true version of what the game should have been before it lost its way. Even in the first game, there were like a good amount of races, but the second game introduced a ton of more races into the mix. And this is basically like, I think the game came out, the franchise is pretty old. I think in the 90s it was first introduced as Warlords or something. But the Battlecry games came out, I think, in 99, 2000, 2001, different sequels to the first game. Around about then, you can look up the exact dates on Google or something. But the game was awesome. We had a lot of fun. Me and my brother played like thousands of hours in the years of dial-up internet and stuff. This is an offline game, so we didn't have to pay no subs or whatever. We just came back from school, took turns on the PC, and goddamn, we played our heroes. He used to play a hero called Zord, a human fighter, and I used to play a human fighter as well, named Lord Galahad. And we have very fond memories. I think my first Iron Man hero ever was based on like a hero that played on this game. I think the Warlords Battlecry 2 or something was where I played my first Iron Man character, and I had him leveled all the way to level 50, which is max level back in the day. And even now, like 20 years later, I heartbreakingly remember how he died in a skirmish map against a Fey hero who was also level 50. I was chasing him after destroying him and his allies completely. The only one enemy left in the map was him. It was an extra large map. I think it was like a woodland map or something. And I was chasing that character all the way to the corner of the map, and I remember I chased him to a corner, and I had full HP, full mana. I was fine, mana didn't really matter. But I chased him to a corner. I was about to go for the killing stroke because he was pretty low in HP because I was hitting him on his back the whole time. And this was like a Fey hero, super fast. I didn't look at his I didn't look at his career / his profession or whatever, like his hero class. He was an assassin, and as you can pretty much tell by now, he just one-shot me and I died. And that was the most heartbreaking bullshit part of my Iron Manning career. I think it pretty much ended there until me and my buddy recently leveled 60 on WoW, in the WoW hardcore. That was pretty fun. Shout out to Hector's. Okay, we should start. We've covered enough background as to why I care about this game. I think we should start talking about why I am making this video. I'm making this video because, first of all, I'm glad that this mod is finally on Steam. I've never played it. I don't know what it's like. But today's video is more about covering, I looked at it a little bit. There's a lot of lore here. And if you've been in this channel before, I am a massive dwarf fanatic. I love dwarves, I love their lore. I play most video games based on whether they have dwarves and the dwarves are have good history and background, and lore and world building and all that stuff. Excuse me. That's what I mostly care about. So, all right, let's see. So, we're in the main menu right now. Some of this artwork is also from like the old games. I think recolorized or whatever. I think that's like a barbarian on a Pegasus. Might be. This might be Tempest or something. One of the barbarian lords or whatever, like avatars, or like max level most powerful unit or something. I don't know. Like one of their gods that you can summon after building a level 5 keep or whatever. And this is like the dark elf version of their god. Titans, I think these are called Titan units. Titan units came into play in the third game. I never liked them. I think the second game was the best version of the game, like I mentioned before. So anyway, let's not talk about the different versions or whatever. We've already extended by 6 minutes. We should start talking about what we want to talk about, aka the lore. Okay. Campaign. So you see, like, this is a heavily modded version of Warlords Battlecry, the third game, and you had all these like different races in the original games, but goddamn did you not have all this lore. And this lore is pretty much why I am making this video. Don't worry, I'm not going to read through everything. As you guys can pretty much tell, and I'm sure most of you suspect, I'm going to cover the dwarf part, the dwarf lore. Disgusting high elf lore. Screw that. We are going to go straight to dwarf and dark dwarf. We can maybe cover in a separate video, but this might be pretty long. But we're interested in the dwarf lore, so let's go. Okay. Dwarves. Dwarves are an old, hardy race created by their god Morannon. They are short, stocky people with strength, toughness, stubbornness, and eagerness that is unbefitting of their size. I would disagree. Some of the eldest dwarves can live for over 5 centuries if combat doesn't claim them before then. Pretty much same with Warhammer. Dwarves who are like 500 plus years old are called great beards or whatever. And the great beards are very strong. Unlike humans, dwarves get, the older they get, the more strong they get. Unless, they're like 700 year plus. Some rune smiths and stuff. Some rune lords are like super old and kind of losing it, but they're still pretty strong. Most dwarves are seen as rowdy folk with a strong sense of camaraderie, and for good reason. They enjoy a tale as much as a mug of ale or a good fight. The music's bringing me back to the good old days. And many of the exploits have become legendary. Many dwarves can be boisterous, boastful, merry, and yet also determined and resolute. Despite the severity of the situation, dwarves can be pretty lighthearted and may jest with their allies. Although some dwarves can be challenging to get along with, they can also be well-liked by almost anyone. Now, here, we'll compare the lore here with Warhammer, because that's what we're really familiar with. Warhammer dwarves don't tend to be lighthearted at all. They just, they're more, more stoic, more gruff. Other races find it difficult to get along with them. But it's not a big deal. Let's keep reading. When the uncelebrating dwarves are laboring hard in many guilds, mining precious minerals from the earth or building some of the most extraordinary structures in Etheria. One more thing about, dwarves drinking and being merry. Yes, dwarves drink a lot, but then I think drinking allows them, I think it might be a D&D thing, or it might be a Warhammer thing, or it might be both. Drinking allows dwarves to, like, sort of, humans become, more jolly, but dwarves become more stoic as they get more and more drunk. They start brooding more, they start remembering their past more, the past glories, the past failures, the past, victories and glories, and also their past shames. So it's like a very, sordid affair. Drinking, getting really drunk is a time when dwarves can collectively, remember the past. Their astonishing skill in stonemasonry is rivaled only by the work of ancient elves. Elves are garbage. Smiths and jewelers who have mastered their craft are known to have forged some of the most incredible artifacts in Etherian history. The world in Warlords Battlecry is called Etheria, by the way. Dwarves are a rather materialistic race, true, which is well reflected by their skills in their god Morannin's runes. There we get mention of runes. Runes are big in Warhammer. A type of magic which uses symbols imprinted in the material plane of Etheria. It's quite close to the understanding in Warhammer, except it's a little different. It's mostly runes inscribed in, armor, weapons, and siege engines, and everything else, gates, structures. So yeah, I guess this is actually pretty close to what the Warhammer interpretation is. Though Emmerich may have created the dwarves, the Emmerich is basically, I think, the actual god that made them. I think they respect Morannin more. It is through Morannin's mastery over the soul of stones and of rune magic that dwarves could be made. There you go. As such, dwarves refer to Morannin as their first and greatest forefather. Offending their religion is like insulting the family members of every dwarf. This is correct. Every time I'll say this is correct or not, but I'm just basically comparing to like Warhammer lore, so don't destroy me in the comments if you are watching this video. If you care about lore and stuff like me. They're very honorable people who take great pride in their creations. Some may become filled with greed or come to worship their designs, mistaking an object or material thing for their own lives. Interesting. Great pride is correct. Greed is correct. Sometimes dwarves are overcome with like gold fever. This is like something that's in Warhammer lore. There's an actual dwarf I remember in the War of Vengeance. He's the king of one of the Scaranawi dwarves, aka the dwarves that live above ground. His name is Skarnak Grum, and he basically spent more time in his vaults counting gold than actually looking into the affairs of his kingdom, which is left more under the strict command of his captain of the guard, who later became the Slayer. Spoilers for War of Vengeance, I'm sorry. Anyway, this kind of gold fever is also prevalent in Lord of the Rings. I remember Thorin's great grandfather, and Khazad-dûm, not Khazad-dûm, Erebor, and becoming extremely obsessed with the Arkenstone. Anyway, sorry, digressing really badly. But lore video. What do you expect? It is well known that a dwarf's rowdiness can get out of hand. Brawls are common, especially when one affronts their pride or kin. Most of these brawls never result in anything more than damaged property. But at rare times, the dwarf may be prepared to kill outside of actual combat, whether that be to reclaim their family's dignity, defend the material objects precious to them, or to steal. All true. Any who commit a crime risk insulting their family's honor. Their kin, even newborns, bear that burden throughout the rest of their lives as though they took part in that crime. Grudging is a serious business, guys. Usually the only way for a dwarf to reclaim their family's dignity is to march out onto the battlefield or perform an incredible feat worthy of song, or become slayers in Warhammer, but that's not a thing here, I don't think. The Dwarven Empire was once magnificent, but has seen near destruction multiple times. In 1290, Het, the demon god of plague, created a new disease, specifically for the dwarves. Oh, that's a bummer. Within 30 years, 2/3 of the entire population had fallen. Subsequently, their own ancestral homelands of Darkdom were captured by Gnolls, the Citadel of Khalil were attacked by orcs, Duras was sacked by minotaurs, and the dwarven people engaged in a war against the High Elves, which nearly destroyed them both. Those that survived became taciturn, forever hiding their grief and rage. This is very close to the lore in Warhammer. If you guys know anything about dwarf history in Warhammer, it's basically dwarves are enjoying peak status, become friends with elves, start loosely trading with humans or whatever. Then Malekith sunders the elves into dark elves and high elves or whatever, regular elves I guess. There's no high elves in Warhammer. And then they get into like a big fight, and Malekith devises a plan to get the dwarves to attack the elves, and starts, he sends a raiding band to like mess with dwarves, and then the dwarves are completely oblivious to the fact that there's a faction. There's like a big sundering between different elf factions, so they assume that the elves are responsible, and diplomacy goes like south, and then they start killing each other in this massive long. I think it's a 500-year battle. It's called the Battle of the War of Vengeance. The elves jokingly call it War of the Beard because the shaving of a beard started the whole thing. So this is the war part with elves is correct. Then after the War of Vengeance in Warhammer, what happens is in the timeline, dwarves enjoy some years of peace, and then great earthquakes destroy half of the world's edge mountains, and then goblins, night goblins, Skaven, orcs attack every hold while they're completely dismantled by the earthquakes or whatever, and most holds are lost. So like this is kind of very similar to Warhammer. Now my question is, I know Warhammer is pretty old. A lot of things borrow from Warhammer, but this game is also pretty old, and Warhammer lore isn't solidified. There's a lot of stuff in the first editions that are like not really that concrete, or like followed, or like later were retconned. So this stuff, I guess, I know this is the mod version of the game, but like a lot of the lore from in this game, I assume, comes from the previous old like parent games, like lore from like the items, the loading screen tips. There's like some lore there, so it's hard to say. I think I would say this game borrows from Warhammer, honestly, but then who knows, right? All fantasy settings borrowed from each other. I mean, we just don't know about Warlords that much. I guess people don't know because it didn't become that famous. Marketing was poor, which is just kind of sad because this game is pretty awesome. Even after multiple catastrophes, the true nature of dwarves shines through. They will face any threat, laughing all the while, and stand their ground even if it means their own doom. All of this is correct compared to Warhammer, but then the laughing part, not so much. Stubbornness, it seems, is a dwarven trait none can besmirch, for their strength is legendary, true, and it inspires a deeply felt fear into any who would dare assail the walls of the dwarves, or that of their friends. Cool. Very nice. Okay. Onwards to, let's see what happens. I guess that's pretty good lore. I'm sure we'll get more lore as we go, play the game or whatever. Kind of want to check out the Dark Dwarf lore, but I don't know enough about Dark Dwarves in Warhammer, and Chaos Dwarves, and the Dawijar in Warhammer to like really do a good apt comparison. So we'll stay with dwarves for now. Maybe I'll make a Dark Dwarf video if this one gets excuse me, a good amount of hits. What is this? Factions. What? Oh. What is this? What the hell? This is more lore. Oh shit. Well, we got a lot of reading to do, boys. This is gonna be a long video, and I don't apologize for that. Okay, Kagar. Founded by Lord Geldrin in 1260, Kagar is one of the few remaining citadels of the dwarves, located in a great vale in the eastern Agarian mountains. The citadel is considered the heart and soul of dwarven society and camaraderie. Named after the tribes of primitive humans who lived nearby in ancient times, the folk of Kagar are amiable and jovial. I remember like playing the old games, and they were like the Agarian knights, so it kind of makes sense that this is the lore for Kagar, adjoining the Agarian mountains or whatever. Their friendship with the Agarian people is renowned far and wide for being highly prosperous. Their ties are so significant that Kazgarians built the Syrian castle of Marthos, and they live with each other. Cool. Kazagar's culture is similar to that of Drag Doom, we heard Draktum fell to nulls in the previous panel, with many old practices still being upheld today. Though outsiders are welcome, most are still not permitted into the sacred halls of Citadel. Good. Kagar is one of the most luxurious dwarven holdings, boasting water-heated rooms and steamworks. Very nice, comfortable. Elaborate works of runic art adorn almost every wall and column, and many simple stone devices have been shaped into various characters or faces. Pretty much exactly what you'd expect when you go into a dwarf hold. It's like, the ancestors' faces and statues everywhere, inscriptions everywhere, recounting old deeds and history of the hold, how it came to be and stuff. History is very important to the dwarves. Lore is very significant to dwarven culture. Kagar's brewery is one of the most advanced in Etheria, and its produce is famed throughout, even more than the rumors of the Citadel's hidden vault. To many other folks, the incredible underground halls of Kagar may seem like a labyrinth. Compared to other dwarven citadels, Kagar is laid out somewhat haphazardly due to its history with the orcs. Exploring a series of tunnels created by the Sundering, ancient dwarves were involved in constant war with orcs and goblins. The fighting underneath Etheria's surface occurred from 1133 to 1246, nicknamed the Dark War by dwarven kind. Though the dwarves successfully pushed back the orcs and took control over most of the tunnels, the war had left much of the eastern area in dire state. Over many years, the eastern tunnels were repurposed to counteract constant break-ins by the orcs. This is similar to the Underway in Warhammer, the Ongdrin Angkor, which is basically an underway, an underground, long, ancient dwarf road that connects all the holes, by tunnels or whatever. After during the Goblin Wars, the earthquakes that happened, opened all these fissures and these extra tunnels were opened, cave-ins happened and stuff that through which Skaven and Night Goblins poured in and completely assaulted these holes or whatever. So, the lore is similar to Warhammer a lot, and I really enjoy that. I don't really care much about the borrowing, to be honest. Within 80 years, Antharg Plague Lord spread a virulent disease among the dwarves, and a new order rose that practiced the creation of golems. Cool. With these unique creations, the dwarves wished to fight the demon god of plague and all other enemies, to leave a legacy should the worst befall them. Due to charges of heresy against the gods, this new order was quickly purged, so they didn't really like the golems, I guess. Golems were a thing in really old Warhammer. Some of the oldest runesmiths and rune lords used to create golems with the anvils of doom, massive anvils that were super powerful. And you needed excuse me, multiple anvils to awaken these golems. They were called the Gronti something, Duras. Yep. Gronti as in big, Duras in stone, big stones, as they're called in Kazlin. But I don't think they came into effect, or they came into play during the War of Vengeance. They were, I think, this big runesmith called Ranald Silverthorn tried to awaken them, and then just couldn't do it. He got murdered. There was too much. It would take too much, and he just didn't have enough, I guess, aid from other runesmiths or whatever. Anyway, if you want more details, read War of Vengeance, Warhammer. By 1321, all were imprisoned, executed, or forced into exile. As an act of vengeance, the feared clay golems of Benridge were given a form of sentience and the ability to procreate via magic methods. Those that didn't go on a chaotic rampage, fled into the depths of Kagar. The chaos that ensued resulted in the loss of many lives. Within a week, rune lords of Kagar managed to control the berserk golems with runes. Rumors about missing dwarves who strayed too far into the deepest, most forgotten regions of Kagar still spread. These rumors were thought to be inspired by the terrors witnessed during the years of the dwarves. Tales of any number of monstrosities and aberrations and their defeat are often the subject of dwarven bravery and mirth in Kagar, so much that most tales of monster hunters, adventurers, and slayers and heroes originated there. This might be like giving you a hint of like how the Chaos Dwarves came about, or like the Dark Dwarves in this game, but like maybe something with, something about the golems sort of like created a rift in dwarven society, and this might have led to their rise. I know this. I'm suspecting this because I played the old games, and if you played the regular dwarves, you'd have like regular dwarf units, berserkers, dwarven lords and stuff. Blah blah blah. A lot of other regular infantry units or whatever. But if you played the Chaos Dwarves, the Dark Dwarves in this game, sorry, I keep saying Chaos Dwarves. If you play the Dark Dwarves, your army would be mostly formed of like golems and machines and stuff. So, pretty interesting playstyle difference between the two. But unfortunately, one thing is similar between the two is just dwarves in every game. They're really slow. Slow units. Slow, ponderous. As the dwarves of Kagar have survived against some of the most potent threats Etheria has ever seen, they have acquired a reputation for their military prowess. No other dwarves more embody the legend of a dwarven kind, for the bodies of Kazgarians are said to be as challenging as granite, and the strength is likened to falling boulders. No other can face imminent death with such hearty laughter and a pint of the finest brew, slaughtering the forces of evil all the while. Cool. Next up is Holy City of Durnoth. I like the artwork, it's kind of cool. Probably borrowed. Or probably, commissioned just for this game, I'm not sure. Built in 1278 by the legendary Lord Durgrim, Durnoth is the spiritual and religious capital of Etheria. Like every other dwarven citadel, Durnoth is almost entirely underground, with only the highest chambers above ground watching over Durnoth Vale. Mighty fortresses and keeps fortifying every entrance into the city, protecting the sacred Hall of Reflection, Henge Hall, Lore Halls, and of course the Ale House, of course. Brewing and the storing and distribution of alcohol, ale, and everything is very important in Dwarven society, as everyone knows in every fantasy setting. Almost every hall is exquisitely detailed, and natural light streams in from a reflective system in the ceiling. Ferries operate over the Durnoth River, offering cheap travel fares across most cities. Because of this, it is easy for merchants to trade their wares and transport precious metals. The treasury is constantly guarded by elite soldiers and even rune priests. Not only is its wealth said to be legendary, but it is also one of the most secure treasures in Etheria. Nice. Trading is very profitable for many merchants who visit Durnoth. In particular, traders from the primitive city of Sol, Carmel monks, and Maridun merchants depend on Durnoth for many of their wares and deals. Durnoth imports many goods, especially food, from other locations. Despite this, the Vale supplies some of the city's food, while the river supplies fish, but more often than not, food stocks need to be imported from further afield. It's like a holy city, but also kind of a banking trade hub. Anyway, Duranothian smiths are highly praised, as many are said to communicate with their god Moranin through creative use of their ancestral hammers. The position of Lord Highsmith has authority second only to the king and equal to that of the city's elder. That's cool. Lord Highsmith, I like that. It's like the head of the clergy. It's called Lord Highsmith. Within every facet of Durnoth's diverse culture, tolerance is upheld for most of the world's religions. Due to the liberal ideologies of the city, it has become the central hub of religious practices for many different races and cultures, especially humans. At the center of the citadel is Henge Hall, a great expanse of temples and sacred sites dedicated to gods of almost all races and nations. This is not typical of this sounds like more of a holy city for everyone, but then, dwarves did not have this. They would not entertain gods of other races into their fortress, citadel, hold. Anyone can feel the magical power that emanates from this place. In addition, a great dwarf temple near the throne room contains a sect of dwarf priests who worship their gods and contemplate their existence. The hallowed magical pools of Hall of Reflection are sealed off to all but the most devout and those the priests allow entrance. Within, it is said that the collections can divine the future, but whatever the future will ever come to pass is a mystery. Whether that future will come to pass is a mystery. As the practice of religion spread amongst the populace and hundreds of pilgrims flocked to see the pools, Duras came to be known as the Holy City. Its power grew alongside its wealth and cultural diversity. An elite order of dwarven Templars, known as the Terra Sanctus, was explicitly founded to protect the town and watch for malign practices. Their religious fervor and strength are famous throughout Etheria. In addition, Duras is one of the few places in Etheria where griffin riding skills are still practiced, though usually only to a privileged few, as the Holy City is the hub of religion in Eastern Etheria. Its zealous military strength is as legendary, as diverse. Any who dare to assault the Citadel will face its soldiers and the many priests, sages, druids, wizards and magi who make Duras their home. Even the immortal White Council is said to have connections within the city. Dwarven Templars, Terra Sanctus. I have a comment here. So in Warhammer, Dwarven society the military society is so steeped in revering and praising their ancestor gods, Grimnir, Valaya, and Grungni, that there's no real reason to separate the clergy, not the clergy, but like to separate the regular warriors from a holy line of warriors, because the regular warriors venerate the ancestors so much that the distinction is not really important. However, in the first edition of Warhammer, WFRP, Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, there was a career for dwarf fighters called, Templars. Dwarfs could be Templars. And I think, there was one instance in lore in the old codex, and it was called the Order of the Stone Wall, which is basically Templars, Dwarven Templars. And if you read about the Order of the Stone Wall, they're basically dwarves who are more religious than their other cousins or whatever, and they're more dedicated to their gods, to invoking their god or whatever. And their function kind of seemed somewhere stuck between what Slayers are. They'd fight, as the last line of defense or whatever. Somewhere between, Slayers, Ironbreakers, or whatever. And it didn't make any sense to me. And I guess also to people who wrote these codexes or whatever, Games Workshop, you know what? We have Ironbreakers, we have Slayers, we have all these different. We don't need Templars. Templars is a purely human invention. Because we venerate the ancestors anyway, so fuck it, who gives a shit? So they kind of took away Templars as a career for dwarf fighters or whatever. Interesting that we have Templars here. Rant over. Anyway, the arsenal of Duras is excellent. Its existence has been threatened multiple times. The cult uprising of 1321 caused a massive divide in dwarven ideology, inevitably creating the Dark Dwarves. Even today, remnants of the cult still exist in the most secretive caverns near the city. The years of the Broken Oath from 2013 to 2904 saw the systematic destruction of dwarven civilization. Duras was only saved by the legendary spirit of King Duer Grim in 3459 during the Bane Wars. City held the Dragon Shard from invading Sartek forces. Sartek are like snake men. Forces which had managed to enter through the secret southeastern gate. That is not an end to Duras' involvement in worldly affairs, as warped and mutated beasts assaulted the city from north in 3719 and were yet again saved by the ancient dwarves' founders' spirits. So I guess the city is protected by some kind of holy spirit, the first king. It is pretty cool. Throughout history, Duras has been the site of prosperity, debate, and religion and war. Its impact on Etheria rivaled only by the mystery surrounding Duragrim. This figure repeatedly saves Duras from the brink of destruction. With fate and spirit in hand, the people that call the holy city their home have time and again united to form an impenetrable defense of their sacred land, and will continue to do so no matter the invaders and no matter the odds. Duras seems more like a mixed city than like a purely dwarven city, but I mean the founder of the king, the first king's spirit protecting the city is kind of like similar to the Green Knight in in pop culture and Arthurian legend and in Warhammer, the Green Knight. And also, I think, if you guys know Beligar Ironhammer, the true king of Carrick Eight Peaks. He is, if you play Warhammer Total War, he's he's aided by his ancestor spirits. If you play that campaign, so it's kind of cool. It's kind of similar, like spirit fighting for their people years after they're dead. Also, nobody actually knows if Grombrindal, the White Dwarf, is actually corporeal or spirit, because he is kind of, he is corporeal, but he's his years are beyond count. He might as well be a ghost. Camar, City of Artifice. This is gonna be like the like Ekrund in Warhammer. The main metalworking city or whatever. Connected to Kazagar by a series of tunnels, Camar is the older of the two citadels. Unlike other dwarven fortresses, a lot of Camar was built overground by King Camarin in 1246. More than anything, the citadel represents the success and triumph of dwarves at the end of the Dark War. Situated in the middle of the mountains of Barak Dumir, some of these names are very close to the Warhammer names, so I think they did borrow very heavily from Warhammer, if it wasn't already evident. Camar oversees the many vales of the mountain range and parts of the borderlands. Though the stronghold has considerable defensive abilities, it is famous for its populace's savvy technological skills and rune enchanting abilities. Give them tech and rune enchanting? Come on, guys. Many Cameron smiths, engineers, and rune lords are renowned throughout the Citadel's history, all creating new gadgets, gizmos, and trinkets with a mix of quality dwarven craftsmanship and magic runes. Kind of like, not Akron, Juvbar in Warhammer. Juvbar was the main industrial sort of site. Juv as in waterfall. It was basically a hole next to a waterfall or something. The grand splendor of Kazagar steamworks and hydraulics were designed by Cameron engineers whose technical prowess was near that of the Dark Dwarves. See, I told you guys, Dark Dwarves are pretty good with, like, forging golems and engines of war and stuff. Interestingly, it's the same in, like, I think in Warhammer. I think the head of their order is called a demon smith or something. I'm not sure. By comparison to the other dwarves, those of Camar are drawn more to technological wonders over riches and take great pride in their own innovative creations. So, I think the engineer skill would be, like, massive here. Their joviality and camaraderie are found on sharing and designing their outcomes more than battling monsters and sharing heroic or embarrassing tales. Instead of collecting valuables, Cameron dwarves think of how they can be used, which is why many Cameron artifacts are laced with valuable stones and metals. A utilitarian society. Nice. As such, the interior of Camar is more utilitarian. Yep, god damn it, I'm so good at this shit. Than most other dwarven citadels. Due to its isolated location and technological prowess, few dare challenge the might of Camar. Much of the flash powder weaponry may have been lost along with Drakdum and Korinbar. However, Camar is one of the only citadels which still maintains its use with new weapon designs. A metal tubular musket device fires bullet projectiles at incredible speeds, ripping through most armor. Colloquially referred to as the Dragon Staff or Thunderstick, Boomstick from Warhammer and stuff, and in World of Warcraft. Especially among other races, the musket is a terrifyingly powerful weapon on the battlefield, though challenging to reload. I assume, I guess so, yeah. Enormous grounded designs of the gun are carried around on wheels. These weapons are known as cannons, and some of the most feared weapons in Etheria. Their effect on the battlefield is profound, making immense noise that can be heard from tens of miles away. This sound isn't just for show. For the cannon, it can blow anything apart at long distances. Good artillery. In the tongue of the dwarves, they're known as Karambal, and it is a name all other races make sure to recall with great trepidation. It is a small wonder that Camar became a dwarven seat of power for millennia after the fall of Korinbar. Only once has the Citadel of Camar been overrun, and only during the Orcish Jihad, as The creatures flow through the fort to the borderlands, not even during the War of the Broken Oath did the Citadel fall, where most others did. The fearsome weaponry of the Camaran dwarves has been enough that all but the most unnoble creatures stay far away. 2 comments. One, I think the Orcish Jihad, if I remember from the first game, the second game's loading screens or whatever, maybe the third game, was because someone stole some horn or something from the orcs. They had a holy horn, an artifact, very sacred to their race, and I think some human stole it, and then the jihad, the great orc Wa or whatever started. Whoa! That was my first and only impression of orcish Wa I'll ever do in this channel. Anyway, second comment, right? So it seems like Camar is pretty open to technological innovations, and experimenting with new technology and stuff, which is good. But I think this is pretty frowned upon in regular dwarven society. They kind of like their old stuff that they've invented. They don't really innovate, improve much, which is why the pace of technological improvement is very slow in the Warhammer world. To the frustration of a lot of dwarves who have an eye for innovation. Sometimes they get so frustrated they become expatriate dwarves, leave the kingdom, and then they go out to the human lands, and they go to human cities and they innovate there in their own personal workshops, or the human cities engineering guild or whatever welcome these dwarves with open arms, because they have a lot of skill and higher artisan skill than humans or whatever. Engineering skill. Anyway, done with that. Camar. Last one is Drag Doom, the Dragon Fortress. This sounds kind of intimidating. Base of Splendor and Dragons. Nice. Okay. The legendary birthplace of the dwarves and their most sacred ancestral ground. Oh, they saved the best for last. Drag Doom was built 848 inside a huge volcano by the equally famous Camarin, who united the dwarven clans and was declared the first king. The earliest artifacts and stone carvings line the uppermost halls of the citadel. One can study much of dwarven history as the halls develop further into the earth. Orin, the religious figure of all dwarves and the pupil of Morannon, is said to have developed his skills here along with the legendary Jewel of Etheria. Many shrines are dedicated to Orin and all gods of Drag Doom dwarves worship, especially near the surface. Drag Doom is the deepest and largest dwarven citadel by the substantial margin. Not even descendants of the Citadel's folk know exactly how deep Drag Doom is, but all agree that the Dragon Fortress extends to and maybe even beyond volcanic lava. So we talked about, I guess, Kagar has pretty insane labyrinthine deeps, but I guess this is even bigger than that. Interesting. The deepest hall of Drag Doom are said to be the most exquisite in all of Etheria, lined with precious metals and stones, even surpassing the opulence of Kaz Elenak. Etheria, lined with precious metals and stones, even surpassing the opulence of Kaz Elenak. Right? Though Elenak's splendor is in its architecture and is no less impressive. Before Drag Doom managed to spread even further, the Sun Ring occurred in 1032, collapsed much of the citadel. It is said that there are great and ancient wings of the citadel which haven't seen torchlight since their initial creation. Any number of riches, magical artifacts, or even religious prophecies are said to be lost. This topic is among the most common subjects for treasure hunters, historians, and priests of Morannon across Etheria. Rivaling this notion are the many tales of Drag Doom and those of its monsters. The Dragon Fortress is named aptly, for the place is one of the few active dragon roosts left in Etheria. When the Dragon Fortress was founded, endless conflicts ensued between the dwarf and dragon. Normally, the great-scale beasts do not care for or respect any of the perceived lesser races, but Camarin was different. Although much of the history between dwarves and dragons have been lost, it is still known that there was a pact made between dwarves and Drag Doom and the dragons. In some fashion, they managed to form a lasting peace. Occasionally, some dragons may independently strive out on their own and seek destruction, which is why the Dragon Fortress is also
the founding place of dwarven dragon slayers. See, this I enjoy. This I like because dwarves and dragons having some kind of bond is like kind of very anti-Warhammer, because in Warhammer that's what the elves did. Elves are the ones who had like this, like, Imladric, if you read War of Vengeance, was the dragon tamer. Kaladar, dragon tamer before him, had a dragon. Dwarves don't like dragons, man. Dwarves hate dragons. Dwarves don't like flying in the sky under dragons. In the War of Vengeance, dragons were one of the more scary antagonists for dwarves. Which they overcame with like their with the sky sky machines. I forget what they're called. But they're fighting their blimps that they invented, just to fight the dragons or whatever. But yeah. However, what Drakdoom is most renowned for among dwarves is its downfall and recapture millennia later. We read about this earlier in the Kazagar part. One more thing also before I keep going further. Drakdoom is similar to a Warhammer dwarven hold held by the Norse dwarves. I don't know if they later turned into chaos, but it's called Krakadrak. Krakadrak is the dragon hold in the Warhammer. In 1850, after tunnels were dug around the Citadel for over 9 years, hundreds of thousands of gnolls invaded Krakadrum. So this is kind of like Warhammer, except it's night goblins and not gnolls invading different holes after these quote-unquote sundering. The Great Earthquakes destroyed a lot of the underway and stuff after the War of Vengeance, destroying, plundering, and corrupting the Dragon Fortress, despite the advantage of dwarven flash powder. When the gnolls managed to gain control of Citadel, they immediately began to work on imitations of dwarven technology and further developments of flash powder devices. Also Skaven, the rat races. From 1850 to 2112, King Corin II of Camar sent expeditions and armies in Drakdoom, only to discover that the gnolls were not only using dwarven flash powder weapons, but also had developed new ones, such as flamethrowers and grenades. Bastards. In 2112, in the last battle, King Corin II lost his life to poison gas. Poison gas is like the domain of frickin' Skaven. So gnolls are kind of like Skaven here. And since then, no dwarf has ever returned to the ancestral homeland for thousands of years. As persistent as they are, however, dwarves finally mustered a great host in 3896 and recaptured much of Drakdoom, slaying goblins, orcs, gnolls, and all manner of monsters and unquiet dwarven spirits. Very nice. Unquiet dwarven spirits. Now, we have undead in Warhammer. We also have undead in this game, as we saw previously, in character creation, race selection. But if you read the campaign supplement called Karak Asgal, which is basically a hold that was just, used to be a dwarven hold, and it used to be called Karak Israel, the Silver Mountain or something, translation from Kazalit, and used to be a very prosperous hold until, a dragon came and destroyed everything, and then scalp dragons, so they went and killed the dragon, but couldn't recapture the hold from goblins and orcs and skaven that was squatting there. So adventurers, they made a small city or a small hold outside the main hold, ruined hold, and they would ask adventurers or whatever to pay toll, so that the adventurers could delve into the ruins and extract any artifacts. The dwarves would get taxed, would heavily tax or whatever, but they'd let the adventurers keep any artifacts that they could bring out of the ruins, given they lived. It's a pretty interesting campaign supplement. Anyway, I'm saying I'm talking about all this because if you read the Karak Asgal bestiary or whatever, you'll see that there are a good number of like dwarf ancient dwarf kings or whatever, dwarf lords, or like interred deep inside Karak Asgal that have been risen from the dead by some necromancer asshole, and they became whites. So I guess here they were fighting some manner of dwarven whites when they finally took over, recaptured Drakdoom. Anyway, a difficult peace was re-established with the ancient Red Dragon of Dragonia roosting in the eastern deeps. The grave hall and crypts around the Duras stone were purged of undead in the southwestern deeps, and the gnolls were chased from the throne room and the king's room in the north and northwestern deeps. The dwarven army marched into uncharted territory to face the fleeing gnoll king. There they cornered him and slaughtered his blood guards, Killer and Slayer, said to be the finest assassins who have ever walked the face of Etheria. Gnolls sound very much like Skaven. This is pretty epic though. The Great Host recapturing Dragdoom. Extremely epic. We're not done yet. Finally, the descendants of the mighty dwarven citadel reclaimed their heritage. Their battle was long and arduous. Repairing Dragdoom and maintaining peace with the dragons was as perilous as it was draining. The once safe and secure depths are the home of many monsters and humanoids, and not all are challenged by the Dragon Fortress's patrols due to their low number. None truly know what to expect when Dragdoom is fully explored and its secrets revealed, but it will hide its mysteries for a time, much to the dismay of adventurers worldwide. Very much like Karagazgal. Some of the many other races of Etheria are so enthralled by the ancient fortress that they design it to assist the dwarves in the repair and exploration process. However, some of such folks are less than honest. New watches and defenses have had to be established throughout the Citadel as repairs are underway. Regardless of the trials they face, the folk who call Dragdoom their home are some of the most vicious, stubborn, and veteran of all dwarves, and no monster aberration or plunder will deny them of the people's rights. I like this faction. We have Duras, the mixed city, holy city. We have Kazagar, pretty standard dwarf hold. Camar is the basically like Ikrund or whatever. Jufbar. Dragdoom sounds pretty epic. I'm gonna go with these guys. Don't really care about this stuff, to be honest. I'm not actually. I'll think about this stuff later. I don't know what any of this stuff is. Although the tooltips are pretty nice, but looks like they've really changed everything. Like, it's become very much RPG heavy. I would not be surprised if it's like, pretty cool like little missions that are like RPG flavored, which would be pretty cool, to be honest. Because they put in all this effort. I'm sure there's like this is like world building for something gameplay related. Phaneomancer. Oof. We had all these classes in the main game, but I think there's like a lot more classes now. In the interest of time, I'm not gonna dwell too much. I'm just gonna go with Master Paladin. Intriguing. There's like more lore here. Pretty cool. Rune Master, very dwarven career. Ooh, one of the most famous heroes of Etheria is Runelord Brax, who managed to sink an evil god's entire fortress into the depths of the earth using his vast knowledge of geomancy. Probably a dwarf, although the name sounds kind of like an undead name. Human becoming undead name. Keep going. We'd obviously be Korgan. That's our name. Base Dwarf, correct. Dragdoom, correct. Class Rune Master, sure, why not? Starting stats, I think you can customize it, whatever. Can I change the portrait? Some of this artwork is like from the original games. This one's new. Nice. This one's extremely new. Oh shit, I like this one. Like an ancient dwarf. Kind of a priest or whatever, and I'm a rune master, so it kind of makes a lot of sense going this way. Further customize. So this is basically what the hero models used to be like. I guess they've customized the colors a little bit. The spiked helmet was your hero if you chose to play Dark Dwarves. So I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna go with the standard hero model. Voice sets, nice.
On my way. Fall back. Watch yourselves.
These three are like from the original game. These are new, I think. I don't like that.
I could use a drink.
Decent. Lord of the Beers.
By my mother's beard.
Sounds accurate.
Now,
Let me ask
Fellow
you
of the
a
Pint,
question,
nice.
You young rascals.
I'm obviously gonna be low to beers guys, it's like no other actual choice. I love these voice sets, they're very nice. Well done. Well done, mods. Take quiz. What is that? What kind of books do you read? Oh god, I'm not gonna do this is too much. I'll do this later. Maybe it'll, depending on your answer, it'll just like, you know, choose a thing for you. Nope. Drag Doom and Rune Master. Okay, we're set. Yep, that's pretty much I think what I'm gonna cover in this video. Thanks for sitting through the hour-long video almost. I'm gonna try to cover more lore stuff in the future in my videos. I really enjoy this stuff, like, you know, reading lore, delving deep into the lore. It's almost as fun as just playing the games, to be honest. Yeah, anyone want to discuss stuff, you know, let me know, send me a message, put a comment in, and we can discuss lore all day. That's all, folks.